What's a better money move? Buying a house for $400K or renting a similar home for $2,000 per month? If you've answered that question already, you're just guessing because there's no way you did the math that fast. Let's jump in. As much as I want to present this as some universal rule of thumb, some X% rule, just multiply the price by this and that tells you whether to rent or buy, it's really too complicated for that. There's so many moving parts. There's interest rates. What's the cost to rent versus purchase a home in your local market? How long do you plan to live there? The list goes on, but fortunately, there are very few problems that a good spreadsheet can't solve, and I made just the tool for this. So is it better to rent or buy? To answer this question, let's first start by calculating our out-of-pocket expenses, or cash flow. Owning your home comes with a laundry list of out-of-pocket expenses. You have your monthly mortgage payment with principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You have closing costs. You have repairs and maintenance. You have the occasional but significant capital expenditure, and you have utilities. With renting, your list of out-of-pocket expenses is a bit shorter. You have your monthly rent, of course, perhaps renter's insurance on top of that, and depending on your lease, some utilities. Using standard assumptions based on national averages, if you buy a house for $400K, your out-of-pocket expenses are likely around $3,000 per month over a 10-year period on average, depending on your market and specific property. Now, for renting a home over a 10-year period for $2,000 a month, you're likely to average about $2,600 a month in out-of-pocket expenses. So we have $3,000 out of pocket for buying a house and $2,600 for renting a house. Does that mean it's over? Renting's a better deal? Maybe, but we don't have the full picture yet. In addition to out-of-pocket expenses, we need to look at the full impact on your net worth and your wealth. And to do that, we need to calculate the impact of equity and opportunity cost in this decision of buy versus rent. Let's start with renting. Instead of buying a home and spending thousands of dollars on a down payment and closing costs, if you have those funds, you could instead invest them in an index fund over a 10-year period and start to grow your net worth that way. In addition, in this example, renting a home was saving you out-of-pocket expenses or cash in your pocket every month on average over these 10 years. So that money actually has value as you're able to reinvest it during that 10-year period, also in an index fund. So in this rent versus buy example, if you take those funds instead of putting them into a home and the money that you're saving in out-of-pocket expenses every month and you invest them, that's equivalent to growing your net worth by about $1,100 on average every month over 10 years. So we need to factor that into the true cost of renting. Now let's look at buying. In home ownership, you build equity simply by paying your principal every month. This is called loan paydown. It's essentially like a forced savings plan that can be pretty effective over the years. Additionally, you can grow your net worth from owning a home through home value appreciation. In the US, this slightly outpaces inflation over long periods of time, 10 plus years on a national level. Have you ever noticed how much your parents' or grandparents' house was when they bought it? Yeah, those home prices don't exist anymore for a reason. That's home value appreciation at work, but you could make it work for you. And similar to renting, if the numbers played out where you were saving out-of-pocket expenses by buying rather than renting each month, that money can be added to your net worth as it can be invested over time as well. So in this example, home ownership can contribute about $2,300 per month to your net worth on average over a 10-year period. You'll see the long-term impact of home value appreciation is very staggering. And one reason for that is due to leverage. Let's say you're putting 20% down. Rather than just getting inflation or a 3%, let's say, increase on the money you put down, you're actually getting 5 times the impact of inflation because it's inflation of the home price rather than your down payment. And the lender doesn't get any of that added home value appreciation, even though they're putting in 80% of the funds in this example. Appreciation is certainly a powerful force that can play out over long periods of time, 10 plus years, and contribute to your net worth. Now, personally, I wouldn't make this decision primarily based on appreciation if I was living in a home for, let's say, less than 10 years, because I understand this is a long-term average and it's a national average. There can be some markets that underperform this average, and that's why it's an average. So I think we're ready to answer this question of should we buy or should we rent? In this example, the average out-of-pocket expenses for renting a home over 10 years was $2,600 per month. However, we estimate about $1,100 per month gain to your net worth through the equity and opportunity costs associated with renting. So in total, the true cost for renting this home over a 10-year period is about $1,500. Now for buying a home. In this example, buying a home was a bit more expensive out of pocket every month than renting. It was about $3,000 per month in out-of-pocket expenses. However, we calculated an equity gain of about $2,300 per month on average over a 10-year period. So in this example, the true cost of home ownership was about $650 per month, making it, drumroll please, a better money move to buy a home than rent a home. So is it always a better financial move to buy instead of rent? My answer, absolutely not. It really depends on when and where you're buying the home. Again, the interest rates, the prices for renting and buying a home in your local market can really sway this. We walked through one example, but if you were to change a few variables, the answer can completely change towards renting. For example, if we were to assume interest rates went back up to 7.5% and home prices were more expensive in our local market compared to renting, let's say this home was $500,000, then now the numbers switch and it's officially better to rent instead of buy a home. And this still assumes you're living in that home for 10 years. If you were to instead only live in the home for 5 years, it becomes more clear that renting is a better financial move than buying. So renting versus buying, you've seen it's not a simple one-size-fits-all X% rule solution. It really depends on the nuances of your situation. There's a lot of math involved. And that's just the math. We haven't even gotten into any of the non-financial reasons to rent versus buy a home. For example, if you're someone who never wants to go in a Home Depot or never wants to spend a weekend trying to fix something in your house, then it's probably better that you rent. And if you're someone who has the financial means to buy a house and you don't want to worry about a landlord increasing your rent next year or deciding to sell the property, you're pretty set on living in this home for a long period of time, then maybe it makes sense for you to buy. So I hope this helps and you have a much better idea of buying versus renting a home. If you want to check out that spreadsheet from today's videos, plug in your own numbers, maybe you disagreed with something from my example, totally fine. It's completely free. Just go to fioutside.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. We give every new subscriber a list of actionable resources that they can use to inform their own personal finances. And that list is always growing. So I hope you found value today. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.